Hey there, Internet. How's it going, guys? I am leaving for the weekend until around July 5th, and before I left, I thought I would record some very quick videos and just maybe do a couple of like minor brew things. We have, of course, the monocolored stuff coming up. There's a monocolored event this weekend, and as a celebration of that, I thought we'd show off some monocolored decks. Maybe we'll see some of these in the tournaments. Maybe you can build your own. There's a lot of decent options for you to go with, but this is my particular Justice deck. It is the Justice Planned deck, but the basic idea behind it is that we are building up into a mid-range game where we are establishing a lot of power with cards like Plated Demolisher, Roland the Iron Fist, and Sword of the Sky King. In order to get to those cards, we are basically running a more defensive early line. The setup is to get armor with cards like Roland's Favor and Throne Warden, defend that armor with Auric Runehammer, and build power with cards like Privilege of Rank, Spire Chaplain, and of course Roland's Favor. So basically we smooth out our power as much as possible. This is one of the few decks where you don't have to run Seek Power, because you can run just 4 Roland's Favors instead, and that will fix you pretty well. You don't have anything that you want to drop on 2, so Roland's Favor gives you a little bit of a defensive start, and then you can Copperhall Bailiff to start countering the aggro decks on the next turn. We run 4 Protect because it's really important to protect those Spire Chaplains so that you can gain continued card advantage out of them, and so that you can use cards like Vanquish and Auric Runehammer to clear the path for Spire Chaplain. Typically having a unit on board that draws a card every turn is kind of problematic for your opponent. He's more likely to leave back blockers than attack in on you, and so you get some defensive advantage out of Spire Chaplain, but it's mostly about just making sure that that card has a path, and then just setting up that way. Because we're mostly about just establishing units, we don't run harsh rule copies. I currently have one of them in the deck just as a sort of sideboard option, but it's it's an okay card. And of course we are running 3 Veteran Mercenary. Now Veteran Mercenary is actually a very strong card in monocolored decks. I've tested it with Shadow, with Justice, with Time, and with Fire. I haven't tested it with Primal yet, but I think it'll go fine in that deck because the Primal deck does need some big bodies. Veteran Mercenary is really quite good, just it provides you with a little extra card advantage. The card itself really has to be dealt with. It will always trade with something, whether that is a removal spell or a pair of removal spells, because it's actually kind of awkward. It's hard to kill with removal spells. Or maybe it'll just trade with like a Sandstorm Titan or a Predatory Carnosaur. Maybe it'll trade with something that's like a 4/4, like a Throne Warden. Typically it'll always get some kind of value, and that's really useful. It doesn't die immediately to Torch, doesn't die immediately to Suffocate. None of the like 1-power removal spells really effectively deal with it, with the exception of Permafrost, which unfortunately you aren't going to have too many answers for in form of green, but you do run 4 Valkyrie Enforcers and 4 Protects. So you can really steal a beating on the blue decks. It's quite strong. Plated Demolisher works very well in this deck. You can run a few more cards that give armor if you feel uncomfortable with it, but as a card that is an 8/8, just awesome setup card. This card gives endurance, of course, has a huge amount of stats, and then of course just sticks around for a while. Typically it only lasts like 1 to 2 turns, but in that time it will deal a massive amount of damage to either your opponent or to your opponent's units, and that kind of pressure is really helpful for you. And if you can get into a defensive posture with cards like Roland the Iron Fist, who makes all of your units invulnerable to damage, then you can really get steal a march, and it's pretty impressive. Roland secures your deck against a lot of archetypes, including Armory. Makes it very, very hard for those decks to get any progress. Same with most burn decks. Anything that's trying to get over and around you, just all of your units having endurance and being invulnerable to damage makes it hard for anything with red in it to deal with you. So he's pretty nice. I sometimes run 3 copies of him. I sometimes run 4. I'm currently running 3 Sword of the Sky Kings, but in some versions I run 3 Rolands and 2 Swords. And Sword of the Sky King combined with all of your armor gives you a lot of late game control and a little bit of late game advantage. The deck is very straightforward, so it's pretty simple to run. Basically, you just play for advantage. You always try to pressure in and be aggressive, and yeah, you can get a decent amount of value that way. Copperhall Blessing is a fun trick. I'm only running one of them at the moment. It doesn't fit exceptionally well, but it's pretty cool against Flame Blasts. It's good against tricky boards. There are a lot of situations where it can come in handy, so it's nice to have a 1-of as a special trick. Alright, so that's it for this one. Let's go ahead and show off the deck a little bit, and I don't think we'll do like a post-mortem type thing, because these are just quick videos that we're getting out for the weekend, since I don't have a lot of time. I'm busy packing and all of that. But thank you guys so much for watching, and let's show off a game. See you soon. Hey ho! Okay, so we're up against Bento. Opening hand has Roland's Favor and a Copperhall Bailiff. The 6-drops are a little bit out of reach, but I think that this is probably going to be fine. It might be okay to pick up something a little bit more capable of getting into the late game, just like something with Spire Chaplain in it. But I like this Protect, and I expect I'll be able to draw some better cards. We'll go ahead and try this out. So I'll play a Justice here. Roland's Favor is up on 2, and then Copperhall Bailiff on 3. Or we can hold out depending on if we see a more controlling deck. Try and just draw some power. Shadow Sigil looks like it's going to be a bit of a slower deck. Vanquish tends to not be useful against Shadow decks if they are Felm, but if he ends up being Stone Scar, then, well, we'll have a chance. If I see a Argenport Instigator, I can play Copperhall Bailiff and at least spar with it. Okay, a little bit of Xenon. Xenon. What? Xenon does not have that many units that I want to give -1, so we're going to go ahead and just play the Copperhall Bailiff. And he'll be like a 2-3 Warcry, which is good enough. Could be that he gets removed, but if he gets removed, then my opponent doesn't play a Dawnwalker this turn, so... Alright. So... yeah, it's a little bit rough. But not that rough. We've got some time now to pick up new cards, and Spire Chaplain comes down. We got the Protect up for that, so if he decides to spend removal on it, then I will not only get to block the removal, I'll also get to attack it and get my next power. That's really what I want, to slow him down while also accelerating myself. Cool, found the Auric Runehammer. It's a good card to pressure with. I'm trying to decide if it's worth it to cast it now. My opponent will probably put something big in front of it so I can vanquish that. Yeah, that feels good. So we get a pressure here, do some damage. Auric Runehammer doesn't get the value that you want out of it, but at the same time I'm getting value out of Spire Chaplain, so I feel good about that. And see, yeah, they put something big in front of the weapon, so we always Reinarch here. And I can swing again. And we're off to the races. Plated Demolisher looks like a really good play. I could also Augmented Form. I have one of these in the deck. It's designed just for those situations where you get like a 9/9 unit or something and you can't quite kill it. Alright, so swing here. Should get a decent amount of value out of that. No blocks, okay. That looks pretty good. And then we'll Auric Runehammer here just to stop the Dawnwalker from attacking in. Well, actually, I guess it doesn't make a difference, does it? I do want to kill the thing, but also if I force it to exhaust next turn... No, it doesn't make a difference. If he plays a unit down in front, I can vanquish. Either way, he'll get it down. We'll just kill it for the heck of it. Because if he doesn't have a big unit, then he doesn't get 2. But he'll likely have something big. I'm too big for Carnosaur right now, so Bento can't play down a Carnosaur and then actually have a block. He doesn't have an Annihilate, he threw the Annihilate, and it's pretty likely he didn't draw a second one. Could be he finds something. Copper Conduit brings back Dawnwalker, and then we vanquish for the win. That's the kind of game we're looking for. Alright. Alright, one more for good measure. We're looking at 3 power, a Spire Chaplain, an Auric Runehammer, and a Veteran Merc. That's a pretty cool curve. Spire Chaplain may not actually draw me my 4th power, but I've got a lot of opportunities to draw that 4th power, so we're going to try it out. I think 3, 4, 5, 6 is kind of something you're looking for here, and Veteran Merc has a pretty good chance of drawing me something extra to fill out the curve. Picking up Roland is usually a little bit weak early, but can be very good in the late game, of course. My opponent playing Time Shenanigans. We'll see if he's willing to drop a Permafrost on Spire Chaplain.
What gave it away?
Okay, he's an Allean mid-range deck.
I bring word.
It's pretty hard to actually interact with that kind of deck, just because... well, we don't have a huge amount of answers to False Prince right now. We have Vanquish, but that's about it.
Safe travels, friend.
Our Acolyte's only buying time, so I'm feeling pretty good about this already. We'll just attack in. Get our Justice. Copperhall Bailiff will get the board a little bit weaker. And then next turn we can play Veteran Merc and start sparring. After Veteran Merc I can Auric Runehammer and have like a 3 health weapon, which is not bad. I still want to have Vanquish for like the big mid-range stuff, but I'm glad to see that he's not on double blue, so he can't play Cerso. Okay, that's fine. Oh, gonna stay defensive. That's actually good for me. I can get Auric Runehammer off that way, and still draw a card off Spire Chaplain when I do so. So I'd kind of like to play Veteran Merc instead. It's questionable. This deck can run out cards like Crystallize. Crystallize is a pretty big hit. Okay, went for the Sauropod on defense. That is a trickier card. I can deal with it by playing Auric Runehammer, but I prefer to establish some armor first. Let's go ahead and set up Veteran Mercenary. Cool, found another 5-drop. That's a pretty useful one. Go ahead and end my turn. This guy will spar with pretty much everything that's already been laid down. And next turn I can Roland's Favor Auric Runehammer. Maybe get some good trades in. I have a double block lined up against False Prince, which makes attacking kind of weird for him. I can't play my 6th power and also something else, which is something I have to consider. But if I just Auric Runehammer that... oh, okay. Let's go ahead and say we want to trade with everything. I think that's mostly true. Sauropod does weigh out a bit in the mid-range, but I feel pretty comfy with this. So that clears up the board a little bit, and then if he plays another Sauropod, I have very good answers. If he doesn't play another Sauropod, we can set down something like Throne Warden and get a little bit more board established. Taking his time, though. That's a decent amount of value. Okay, so we will just have to go for... let's go ahead and say a full-throated Copperhall Bailiff attack. And then if that doesn't get across, or if that does get across, then I can do something else. But I prefer the Timekeeper to die soon. Okay, got that block, got that block. So we choose to damage the Friendly Wisp first, since we only need 1 damage on the Timekeeper. Then we can Roland's Favor. followed by Auric Runehammer. Picks us up 3 armor, and the Amber Acolyte can only deal with 1. Next turn I can play Throne Warden, or I can play Silverwing Commander, or I can play Plated Demolisher. Plated Demolisher's not bad. I'd probably go for Plated Demolisher here.
You cannot put out the light.
Now, Obelisk does present something of a challenge. Alright, well, we'll try a Plated Demolisher here. That reinforces the Rune Hammer and allows me to block the 5-2. And then next turn I have Roland, so I'm pretty happy with that. Should give me very good defense against the Allean deck, unless there's a Surso. Surso I just need Vanquish for. He can't crystallize to get out of this. Sauropod's only going to be a meat wall, so we're fine there.
It's written right here.
Temple Scribe allows him to kill my Auric Runehammer, but I can just use the Runehammer to pick up that and then be pretty happy with that result, so we'll do that now. Knock that guy out. Roland comes in. Insolence will not be tolerated, and 8 damage to the face. And or 8 damage blocked. My opponent might be sitting on Permafrosts, he might be sitting on Crystallizes. Neither of those are good against Roland or Plated Demolisher. If he has Polymorph, that's a good answer, but most of the Allean decks aren't running Polymorph, they just don't have good solutions to these kinds of problems. So we're in very good shape against this deck. I just need to have a Vanquish to set up. I did forget, of course, that Plated Demolisher needs armor. I probably should have held on to that Auric Runehammer for a turn and just used it to save the Plated Demolisher. That was my mistake. Pro tip, kids. Hold on to your Runehammers when you've got Plated Demolishers out. Armor is important. I actually kind of completely forgot about the skill for a second, which is the thing you don't want to do against Plated Demolisher. In any case, got 8 free damage in with it, blocked some damage. I think it got its value, but obviously we could have played that a little better. Alright, Roland's pretty happy here. Now my opponent's trying to race me, it looks like, which isn't going to work, but
I bring word.
it's a nice thought. We'll attack for 6. Invulnerable to damage does mean that you do not take overwhelm damage, so my Spire Chaplain can block the Dawnwalker, and I won't take anything. That's really useful here. Throne Warden will establish some armor. Auric Runehammer will kill some stuff. I think we're just in a really commanding position now. I would really like to... Yeah, basically the answer here is Surso, and he doesn't have it, so... I think we're in a pretty great position, and we'll go ahead and keep establishing that position. We attack with everything. There's no reason not to. Scorpion Wasp isn't a defense here. Roland just blanks so much removal that it becomes really hard to deal with the card. Then we'll just Throne Warden, Spire Chaplain. Play a Justice. A Polymorph would put us into a little bit of trouble, but we're already threatening lethal, so... And that's the game. Alright, that's it for this one. I will see you guys next time. We're going to try and make at least 1 or 2 more of these. I'm not going to get the full 5 set done before I leave, but thank you so much for watching. Feel free to like or subscribe, and I will see you soon with another one. Cheers!